Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am so happy that you have come to check out this course and participate in it as much as you can. Really, as we've said and I've said on this course, the mission and the passion is really just to get everybody interested or at least exposed to health-related careers, because there's such a wide depth and breadth of what's available, and there's so much need around the world for people who are, interested in finding a career path. So there's a lot of opportunity and at all levels, and that's what's really important to why I produced this course with so many people helping. So I want to just take a few minutes before I start answering all the great questions that are popping up right now to really talk about some of the content of the course that some of you may not have even seen yet. It's called the Inside Scoop Video Library. And in that Inside Scoop Video Library, we have two different types of videos. There's a day in the life, which kind of tries to capture a little bit about the shadowing experience. So what is it like to follow somebody through a typical day in the course of their career or in the course of their job, and really see what it's like to be on the inside. So we try to capture that in some of the day in the life videos. So I highly recommend that you look through some of those and really help you reflect on, is this a good potential fit for me, right? The other kind of video is the Keeping It Real. And what that it talks about is we've filmed a wide variety of people from a wide variety of backgrounds in a wide variety of jobs right now, and at different levels. So students all the way up through really senior level positions in medicine and healthcare and academics actually as well. And what they tell you about is their personal career trajectory. What were the bumps along the way? What was the path? Because as I've said in some of my other videos, and as others have said, a career is not linear. It may be for a very few people, but that's rare. There's bumps, there's turns, there's curves, there's cliffs, there's all kinds of things, including roadblocks along the way. And none of us get there the same way. And some of us realize that maybe some of the jobs that we're in just don't fit. And so we move and try to figure out what fits right with our passion, our vision, our career goals, and our talents and skills. So with that, I'm going to start answering questions. So the first question I see here is, how important is it to take anatomy in college before applying to medical school? So medical schools around the world, but especially in the United States, I can speak more obviously from the United States perspective, require a set of courses. They're called the pre-med courses in the United States. And those courses do not necessarily include anatomy. They include biology and basic physics and chemistry and basic science level. But whatever biology course that you take, anatomy could be one of them, as long as it is in line with the requirements of the medical schools you are applying to. So usually there's a specific list of courses that a medical school will require, and so you need to see if anatomy lines up with the course requirement. And also the level of anatomy would actually be important as well, because not all science courses fill the requirements for pre-med. There has to be a certain level that you take. Hopefully that answered your question. So the next question I see is, what kind of classes would you recommend for high schoolers to take to prepare? And additionally, what classes would you recommend for undergrad? So that kind of depends on what kind of career you're looking at or what kind of next steps you're looking at. I'm not sure if this question is specific to pre-med or specific to nursing or other allied health professions, physician assistant or occupational therapy, physical therapy, or even just other health-related professions. So if the question is broad, meaning what kind of courses in high school should I take to see if I'm interested in a health-related career, then the answer would be you should try some science courses. They don't have to be high level, but you need to start, seeing if science is interesting to you at all. Also, psychology is another course that could be, again, put you on a health-related career path. Sociology, things like that. In terms of undergrad, again, as you move further up in your education, the goals or the types of courses need to align with your career goals. So if you are interested in pursuing, say, for instance, we were just talking about pre-med, a pre-med curriculum, then there are a specific constellation of pre-med courses that you would have to take that would help guide you in terms of what you would take in undergrad. Now, nowadays, I don't recommend necessarily needing to major in science in order to get into a health-related career, especially even medicine. You do, for medicine, for an MD degree, a doctoral degree, you do need to take courses that are required for the particular school, so pre-med courses. But in an undergrad situation, at least in the United States, and I know it's different in other countries, but you could major in film, you could major in art, you could major in sociology, you could major in economics, but then fulfill the requirements for whatever school or next step that you're going to do. So for instance, if it's nursing, you would need to take whatever the pre-nursing courses would require. So it really is dependent on what kind of career or next step in the school that you're looking for to apply for, what their requirements are. So it always helps to look. You can go on the web. That's the beauty of the internet these days. You can go on the web, go to seek information from the different schools that you may be interested in applying to in a particular career or discipline, then see what their requirements are. And if they don't list them on their website, then it's taking the next step to call the admissions office of admissions, and actually go ahead and ask them, are there required courses? So next, are you holding these virtual Hangouts on a regular basis? If so, when? I'm happy to host these on a weekly basis. It obviously depends on how interested people are who are taking this course. I want to make sure that this course is as flexible and as good as it possibly can to help each of you taking it, because really the intent is to make sure that I've planted the seed of possibility that a health-related career is actually doable and feasible for all of you, but also to give you information to help you on that next step. So to the extent that these Google Hangouts are helpful to you, I would love to hear feedback. So please, feedback's important. Give it to me. Next is how to become a pioneer in your work. Well, I would say if you look over history, regardless of the country or the region you come from, pioneers or even inventors are the people who dreamed big, right? They kind of sat outside of the usual norm or the bell curve and just thought about ideas. They wondered about, well, what if we do it this way instead of that way? Or what if we could invent this app or this tool to help this? Or why do we have to do a particular thing the same way every time? Or in clinical care, why do we have to treat all patients the same when we know that there might be underlying differences in biology? So maybe some medicines are better for some people than others, depending on that person's particular genetic makeup or biology. So when people ask those types of questions, that is what pushes the bar. That's what moves science and every field forward, actually. You can apply that same principle to those in the business world. Any sector of society, quite frankly. The pioneers are the ones who've pushed the norm, who've questioned why or how can we make it better. Those types of questions are the questions that I want all of you to ask in whatever job that you are in. The next question. Okay, So working in a healthcare environment is very busy and hectic. Yes, that's true. How do you still make time for yourself while still staying committed to your chosen profession? That's an awesome question. There is, we talk, a lot of people ask me, I'm a mom of 4, and it is, and I'm a full-time physician, researcher, leader, etc., educator as well. And so how do you make the time? Well, that's when it comes down to passion. All right. So if you are doing something that you love, and it doesn't matter, you don't have to be a top ranking physician or a top professor in whatever school, or anything. It's whatever you are doing. If you love what you do and it aligns with your goals and your mission and your passion, as Nicholas Pierce actually was talking about in his lectures. So if you haven't checked out those videos, definitely go to Nicholas Pierce's videos in this course, and PEARCE, and check them out, because he really genuinely relays this message that if you can find that passion and you're running the right race for you, then you are going to do that work. And yes, sometimes, or I should say, I'll be honest, many times it means the work's done in the middle of the night or at night or on the weekends, but you make it work. As long as you love what you're doing and it fits with your goals and your mission and your passion in life and your values, then you're going to make it work. And, sometimes it requires a lot of self-reflection. So really thinking about it. And every day, if you ask the top leaders or executives across the board, one of the most important skills that they've learned in helping themselves is self-reflection. 2 to 5 minutes every day, quiet time to think about what you did that day and how you can do it better. And then, is it aligned with who you are? Is it really helping you on your goals and paths to getting to that next step? And that's what's important. If the answer is yes, and maybe it just needs to be modified a little bit, then then you are on that right path. And that's why you can stay working at a high pace and working hard while balancing life and family, because those are super important, and friends and community, super important. How do you not let what happens to a patient affect your daily life? That's a really important question. As an obstetrician and gynecologist, I actually have the real honor and privilege to work with women over time who are going through some of the most stressful times in their life. Whether it's a woman who is potentially in a violent situation, whether it's violence in her community or country, or violence in her own home. And I get to help her think about what is going on and how we can help make her have as safe and as thriving a life as she can. And that's really where I think that conversation with a physician or a clinician is really important, and having that skill to be able to speak with somebody on a very frank, honest, open level is really important. I also, the surgical side of my training, being a surgeon, being an obstetrician, means that when I face a patient who is in danger of dying or being very, very sick, it is in my profession and in my skill set to try to do everything I can to help make sure that that woman, and if she's pregnant, her child, her baby, live, and not only just live, but actually come through the crisis in a healthy state with very minimal harm done to them. We try no harm as the bar, but every once in a while there are some very stressful situations in a field that is surgically oriented or obstetrically oriented, and you have to step up to the plate as a physician, at least from my perspective, and and do it, and take all of your skills and all of your training and just focus on improving that care. And then when I go home, I don't take that home with me in the sense that I'm always talking about it. First of all, there's a confidentiality. I need to keep all the information about my patients to myself. I'm not allowed to talk to people about a particular patient with their name. But if something happens, and I've had bad things happen to me, to my patients, beyond my control, you learn to talk about it in a way and absorb it and learn from it and move forward, so that the next time you see that particular case, you'll have a better understanding, and you'll have a better way, hopefully, of approaching that issue. So hopefully I've answered that question for you. It's a good question. Well, there was one more thing I wanted to say about that question. As a health professional, or as a professional in any field, there is always counseling available. So no matter what field that you are in, what job you're in, there's always health counselors or counselors that are available to you, either through your workplace or through your primary care clinic, where if you are having an issue at work, you can always go to them and talk to them. And sometimes that's all you need, is somebody who is a neutral ear, who doesn't work where you work, who can just listen. And that can help an awful lot in dealing with stressful situations, especially when they're at work. Next question. Do you need to work in more than one hospital? Absolutely not. It really depends. It depends on where you're located in the world. It depends on your particular position. I only work at one hospital and one clinic, but that's just the nature of my own particular position. I know some healthcare providers, nurses, anesthesiologists, nurse anesthetists, physical therapists, occupational therapists that actually practice in many locations at once. And they actually practice at many locations at once. And so it really depends. And I know some healthcare providers actually fly to more rural areas in other countries and in other places in the United States to give care for a day or a period of time, kind of like what we would call in the United States locum tenens. So there's a wide variety of permutations of whether or not you practice in one hospital or one clinic, or many hospitals and many clinics. How can one approach or connect with someone in the field to see if that's the career one wants to pursue, or to seek advice as to what steps to take to get to the position they have? So I would say taking this course is a good step towards trying to figure out the possibilities. So in the first week in this course, we had the animation video that took you through different scenarios of different types of health-related professions and how the team works together. That's really important, to understand that in health-related fields, you're often working with many people across many sectors and many disciplines, and you're always working on a team. So that's the first part. And then the second week, we talk about you're aligning your strengths and your passions and your values with a career and with a job, and really trying to make sure that you're constantly reflecting on where you are in terms of your career trajectory and your personal needs, your personal values, your current needs. If you have to work extra jobs because of your family or your socioeconomic situation, all of those things relate to making sure that you are on the path that you need to be, or that you want to be. And then you've got to map out, what is your pie in the sky goal? Where do you really see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but more importantly, 1 year from now? And really what I do, and what I suggest everybody who works with me does, is keep a document. So you can either keep it in a journal, you can keep like a document on your computer, on your laptop, or on your computer, or on a jump drive, or any pad of paper. Just write it down, and talk and write your list. What do you want to do in 1 year from now? What do you want to do in 3 years from now? What are your goals 5 years from now? What are your goals 10 years from now? What would be your absolute dream goal? Like, I wish that I could be a leader of an organization or something like that. And then you've got to walk yourself back. So what do I have to do to get there? And do I even have a clue of what it takes to get there? And who are people that I know or people that they know that are in those particular positions that I want to be in? And can I go talk to them? Can I go make an informational interview with them? And these are all things we talk about in this course on the videos. So you absolutely can go look at Michelle Shoemate's video about connecting and social networking. You can look at my video. There's just a bunch of different videos available on this course that you can look at that help talk about all of these different things. The other part about it is really just, again, back to self-reflection. Am I doing, is what I'm doing right now going to help me get to that next step? And on that line, on that document that you wrote, always asking yourself, well, maybe this position, I need it because I have to pay for my rent or my housing or the food on the table or my children or the people I care, the family members I have to caregive for. But ultimately, is there something I can glean from what I'm doing now that will be a talent and a skill that I'm learning that I can use then to get to that next step? And that's what's important. That's how you get to the next step. What recommendations do you have for a recent graduate with limited experience in the field in terms of networking and landing a job? So again, as I just answered, in some of the videos that we have in this course, we specifically talk about how to network and how to talk to people who are currently in positions that you're interested in getting into, and have like an informational interview. All of those things are really important. Getting your name out there, interviewing more than one place, talking to people. For some, it's actually, there's national associations, there's international associations of a particular field, whether it's in nursing or physician assistant or allied health professions or in medicine, in MD world, physician world. And there's also discipline-specific conferences as well. So there's conferences on cancer, there's cancer research, there's conferences on clinical cancer. These are international and national. There's conferences on education and health professions. There's conferences on interprofessional education. There's conferences on cardiovascular disease, diabetes. The list is unending. Pregnancy. And if there's one that comes locally to you, then absolutely you could think about attending. Sometimes some conferences and associations actually have scholarships that can help reduce the cost of attending some of these conferences, because I do understand that can cost a lot of money. Sometimes your employer, if you currently have a job and that job requires a certain skill set, you can actually ask and see if you could get help and sponsorship to attend a certain meeting. If you can make the case that those skills you gain from being at that meeting will help improve your job performance. So if you can make that case, then you can get support to do that. But absolutely, in this, to answer your question, it's about networking and about asking the question. If you don't get the job, and if you're giving, if you're participating in an informational interview with somebody who already has that job, is what skills do you need? Or what skills don't I have on my resume right now or in my skill set that I need in order to be more successful in getting a job in this field? And get that feedback from more than one person. And then that will help you then hone in on what skills you need to still get. All right. What is the biggest challenge that healthcare professionals face when it comes to the ethical code of conduct? I think in any health-related profession, there is a code of conduct, and you learn it, and you should read it, and you should understand what it is, what your role is on that team. So as a clinician, I have a particular role on the team, and I need to make sure that I perform in that role and at all times, and that I perform at the level of highest ethical conduct as possible. And that means I understand what the ethical conduct is. And when I have a question about a particular situation, then I have a team of people that are at the hospital that help give ethical conduct support. So we have an ethics team. We also have a legal team. And if I ever have a question or face a particular situation, whether it's clinical or research, there are people that I can go to ask questions. And again, it comes back to being open and honest and reflective and asking questions always along the way. I'm always asking, well, what should I do in this certain situation? Because that's how I learn. And all of us need to be better at reflecting and answering and asking those questions. Did I do this? Is the answer that I'm going to give, or is the thing that I'm going to do at the highest level of ethics possible and in congruence with what I should be doing? Communication is an essential aspect of many health professions. I'm considering trying to learn a few languages. Do you think that will be very helpful? Will it be helpful even if I have only an intermediate fluency? Absolutely. Being multilingual is super important in the world today. I don't care where you live. It is very helpful, and it actually gives you an advantage in the employment field. So in any employment, when you can say you have different levels of fluency, and you should be honest. So if you're truly bilingual, say you're truly bilingual in a language, or trilingual, etc. If you're truly fluent in either writing or written language or spoken, be honest about that. I'm fluent in in writing and in oral communication. So all of those things are really important to do. I highly recommend it. It can only help you in your job. Now, in a clinical setting, I will say that if you are not completely bilingual, you should always get an interpreter to help you. And the interpreter, at least for the United States, I can say the interpreter should be somebody who is completely fluent and not a family member, because again, in the clinical situation, there are privacy issues, and you need to be able to communicate with your patient in the best way possible. The next question is, what are some social work related careers within hospitals? Are those considered health related careers? Absolutely. Social work is a discipline and a field that is definitely health related and very important and central to what we do every day. Social worker in a hospital is a part of the clinical care team, always. And so there are plenty of different segments around the hospital, or teams around the hospital, where social work can focus on. So for instance, in the obstetrics world, where we deliver babies, there is an important group of social workers who are specialized in perinatal loss, meaning if you lose a baby early and the baby dies, then that group of social workers actually can help support a family, and particularly the woman who has just lost the baby, and help them through their next steps. There are social workers that are focused on emergency medicine care, so they're used to taking care of people who come in through the emergency room. There are social workers who take care of cancer patients. So there's a wide variety of social workers with specific interests and expertise throughout a hospital and in a clinic as well. Next question. How would you describe your average day? My average day. So there's actually a video in the Keeping It Real a video library. I'm sorry, the Inside Scoop video library, the Keeping It Real, mine, or I'm sorry, the Day in the Life. There's all these words for these things. The Day in the Life video of me kind of walks through a typical day in the clinic. So what's really cool about my job that I love is that on any given day, I don't do the same thing. Everything is different, and even hour to hour, and sometimes on some days it's minute to minute, I am doing things that are very different, and sometimes I'm doing two very different things at the same time. And that includes then if I'm with my kids as well, trying to be on the phone, trying to answer a clinical question. I can't describe a typical day, but other than it can be very diverse. So I can be in clinic and teaching residents, students, fellows, and taking care of patients. And then I could move on to call on the labor floor, where I would stay in-house in the hospital, helping to supervise the delivery of babies, cesarean sections, all kinds of things can happen when we're on the labor floor. And then at the same time, I could be writing a paper for a journal submission for the research, or looking at data to analyze for a research project, or trying to think about an idea that I would really like to move forward and try to get funding for it through a grant for a program or a project or a research project. I could be also teaching a class or videotaping for this MOOC. So there are just a wide variety of things that I could be doing on any given day. And there are a lot of various meetings with various people, students, leaders, co-faculty, people from other states, other places. So there is a lot of stuff in my day that I do. How does one become a nurse practitioner? That depends on where you are in the world. So the most important thing would be to first ask locally, wherever you are, hopefully if you can, a person who's in the nurse practitioner field right now, and ask them how they got to be there. And that includes the skills that were required. What was the schooling like? Maybe that person had participated in schooling that was local to where you are, so that he or she can actually tell you the ins and outs of the different schools. If you are not able to do that, then you can always call the Association of Nurses or Nurse Practitioners, because there are specific associations around the world for nurse practitioners, and they may be called different things around the world. And you can ask to connect you. You can ask that association to connect you with somebody local who's in that particular position, or they can answer your questions directly. The other thing that you can do is find a local school that trains nurse practitioners and talk to the admissions office. The admissions office in schools, regardless of what type of school it's for, whether it's for physician assistants or pharmacists or veterinarians or doctors or nurses, etc., we have people who are employed in those offices who are happy to give you information, or send you to a website or a good resource, or connect you with somebody there, or maybe one of their recent graduates or current students, to talk about what it takes to get into a particular profession. Next question. How can I be a consultant to a job which is against the law of a country? For example, surrogacy consultant in France. That's a really interesting question. I don't think I really know the full answer to that question. The way I would approach that is to talk to people in that position in other countries, If you can find somebody who is in that position right now in the current country, or who was in a position that is similar, maybe not the exact position, but similar, or in the field, like for example, for surrogacy, the field of reproductive endocrinology and people who do in vitro fertilization and other obstetricians actually may know more about that particular job that you are interested in consulting for, that can help give you some insight into moving forward with consulting for that particular field. You also want to make sure you understand the laws and the origin of those laws, and sometimes like why it is illegal, and then understand how it is in other countries. And you said specifically in France, well, what is it like in Spain or in the surrounding countries in the European Union? I think those would be some of the issues that you would want to glean first before you become a consultant for a position that is not currently legal. Do you or others feel pressure to sacrifice their own ethical views in order to conform to the ethical view of the hospital or of the patients? I'm not going to sacrifice my personal ethics for my job. You have to understand that the ethics are interpreted nationally and then also locally. You enter a certain profession, and you take, especially if it's a clinical profession, you take a code of ethics. For physicians, I can again speak from the physician standpoint, and then of course the United States standpoint. Absolutely, you take an oath, and you adhere to the ethics of that profession and your professional association. So for the United States, there are associations that many physicians affiliate with, such as the American Medical Association, but not all physicians affiliate with them. There, within my own profession, obstetrics and gynecology, there's the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. And there's certain ethical conducts that we have to abide by. And you again, it's about reflection. It's about understanding what your values are and what your ethics are, and understanding the profession that you're in and what are what's the ethical code of that profession. And then at a patient level, at a physician, from my perspective, at a physician-patient level or a clinician-patient level, you have to understand that patients have a certain code of ethics and beliefs, whether it's religious or just cultural or other beliefs, and you have to find that common ground. And we're not telling people, and I'm not in the business of trying to break an ethical code or have misconduct in any way. I hope that answered your question. The next question, Rocio. Oh, how do you see being a unit secretary helping you achieve your goal to be an RN? Oh, that's a good question. I'm not Rocio, but so back in the Inside Scoop library, there is, again, a wide variety of videos. And Rocio Guillen is in video 2 in the Keeping It Real. And you should go check out that video because it's fabulous. But what Rocio was trying to tell you is that she was a unit secretary, and she made it there through a lot of steps. And it was her passion to be a part of a team that delivered clinical care to patients who are in the hospital at their highest level of need. And Rocio proudly, and I love this about her, is proud to be a unit secretary and proudly accomplishes her daily tasks every day. And she has a goal of being an RN, a registered nurse. And she understands that there are steps to get there. And her exposure to patient care and to the workings of a hospital, how a hospital works and functions, and how a unit functions as a team to help wrap around each patient on the unit in the hospital and help elevate them and help make sure their health is as best as they can get it, it is really important, because it gives her the sense and the lens and the understanding and that skill set to get to that next step, to go to nursing school, to be trained as a nurse. She's had all this exposure, and that will only help her in her studies. The next question. I would like to know how to create a career in hospitals for implementing the research already done proved. For example, there is research which has proved that plastics is harmful and we cannot store syrup in it. I like to implement the same. Okay. Creating a career for implementing research to confirm it is great. That's wonderful. And you can do it in research across the spectrum, right? There's so many studies out there, and there's also so many things that we do out there that clinicians do and recommend, or that other people do and recommend, that haven't been proven scientifically. And there is always a need for a scientific workforce to enter into a particular field and study it, and make confirmatory studies or make new ones yourself. The way to do that, though, is really, first of all, you have to like research. You have to like doing science, and it could be a certain type of science. It could be epidemiology, which we talk about in one of the Keeping It Real videos with Dr. Carnathon, Mercedes Carnathon. And I'm sorry, the Day in the Life videos, Mercedes Carnathon. And we also talk about it in terms of bioinformatics. We have lots of data that are coming out of hospitals and clinics, et cetera. Big data is what we would call it. Fields like that are enormously important. And I think that, and so is clinical trials research. So having to go into those types of fields on those pathways, first, you have to go through liking science in high school or undergrad. It doesn't have to be high school if you're an undergrad, or if you're already out of undergrad and you're just interested in trying to get back into a research career, you can go back and get a master's in clinical science investigation or something related to that, and you can or you can go back and get a master's in another degree, or on a PhD track, a doctoral track, which will help solidify your scientific research career. If you don't have much experience, you can also be on a team where you can volunteer on a research project, or you can be an assistant, a research assistant, and work your way up to see if you actually like doing those types of studies. I hope that answered your question. The next question, as a health professional, what do you see as the biggest stressor in your particular role? I would say there's different stressors for different parts of my role, because I have so many different roles as an educator, as a scientist, as a leader in the hospital and in the medical school, and as a clinician. I have stressors. So as a clinician, I always am worried that I am making sure that I give the best care to a particular patient at that particular time point. And oftentimes as an obstetrician, I'm dealing with 2 patients at the same time, sometimes 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how many babies are in the uterus. So it could be twins or triplets, etc. And there's a lot of people that I'm taking care of for that particular situation in that particular moment, and that can be very stressful, especially when it is an emergency. Even on an airplane, I have been called, even most recently on one of my flights last month, there were 2 people sick, and we were on an overseas international flight, and I had to take care of both of them at the same time. And one was very sick, actually. So that clinically and attending to the clinical needs of a particular person at that moment in their greatest need, in a healthcare emergency especially, that is stressful. How do I deal with that? Making sure that I'm very honest with the knowledge that I have, and that I understand the limits of my knowledge, and I understand how to get more information quickly if I needed to look up a quick question or ask somebody quickly about a particular thing that I'm encountering clinically that I need help with. I'm very honest with telling patients this is a great question, or I'm going to call in more backup to help me take care of you, because I don't believe that my skill set particularly is able to take care of you at this moment for this particular issue. So I'm very honest with myself, and I'm very honest with my patients, and then that helps alleviate some of that stress. And I constantly am practicing. I'm constantly reading and learning and expanding my knowledge as much as I possibly can, because I always feel that being as prepared as possible it helps reduce some of that stress as well. From an education standpoint, I have to deal with stress to in terms of making sure that the classes that I teach, the lectures that I give, this MOOC is actually usable for people and helps the students or whoever's participating actually get something out of it. Because I believe not just to talk into outer space and say, hey, I did a lecture, but actually to give usable tidbits of knowledge to the people who are listening. And that's really important to me. As a leader, there's stress for making sure that I'm implementing or advocating for as many people as I possibly can, and making sure that the policies that we implement at a leadership level in like a medical school, or making sure that the programs that we choose to support are actually aligned with what the community needs are and what the state of the science is, and making sure everybody gets what they need on that table. And finally, as a researcher, I have to make sure that the ethics of the research are done at its highest standard, making sure that the community partners that I have on my research projects are happy and are getting what they need, and making sure that the people who are benefiting from this research or participating in this research are actually cared for and taken care of and protected to as much as I possibly can. Next question. I've been out of undergrad for about 8 years now, but I completed all of the science courses necessary for med school and majored in psychology. The new MCAT launched this year. Would you recommend retaking all of the science courses, or perhaps just orgo and physics? Well, it depends on your grades. I don't think the classes in undergrad or grad school are taught directly to take the MCAT. The MCAT is a test. It's a test that we have to take to get into medical school, at least in the United States. And the courses that are taught in schools, universities around the world don't teach for content on the MCAT. The MCAT is a test just like any other standardized test. And although it is important to understand certain topics and the basic scientific knowledge, but if you've already taken those courses and you have some fairly decent recollection of those courses, or feel confident enough that you could refresh using notebooks or your old texts, or taking MOOCs or other online courses that are related to a particular science topic, or even participating in a course review, that may be enough for you. It also really depends on you and how well you are with how good you are with taking standardized tests. Not all of us have that expertise or skill set to be able to actually take a standardized test well. So you need to think about how good you are at taking standardized tests. Maybe take a practice one, because there are books that you can buy or online resources that you can access that can give you some sample questions, and go from there. The next question is, how does one manage time with school and life? It is stressful working in the medical field. It is stressful, and as I said earlier, it has to align with your passion. If you're committed to going through school and you're committed to really being in a certain career later on in your life, then you're going to do it. But we also have to acknowledge that there are times where we have to step out of it, maybe get a job because we have to take care of our family or the loved ones that we care for, because life happens. And the people who are most successful in life are the ones who tend to be able to be flexible with that, and understanding that every once in a while there could be a bump in the road that says, okay, I need to reduce my course load, or I need to stop taking classes at the moment and focus on helping my family member get through an illness, or getting another job. So all of those things are really important to consider, that life happens, and that sometimes people don't take 4 years to do an undergraduate degree, or a particular amount of time to complete a particular school degree, and we just have to be flexible with that and understand that can happen. The next question is, being an older adult student, it is a little intimidating going back to school with younger students, especially given their sharp minds. Do you have any practical recommendations for older adults that are ready to explore a new career in healthcare? Absolutely. And if you want to do it, you're going to go back and not be intimidated by younger people who may be more, in my mind, more facile, or easy to, or understanding of like internet and online courses and all these other things. I remember even as an adult learner taking an online course using one of the older versions of Blackboard, which is a platform you can use to take a course online from a university. And I found that really hard, because that is not how I did my undergraduate. It was all in person. And then I find talking into a camera very unnerving in some ways, because I can't get the feedback from people around me that I was so used to in undergraduate school. So it can be challenging, but if it's something that you want to do, you will do it. And there are some schools actually that have a larger percentage of the student body that are adult learners and non-traditional learners, who have gone for several years in the career workforce and are coming back to school to change career trajectories or change career paths or industries. So it happens all the time. So I wouldn't be worried. It's a matter of one step in front of the other, and you can do it. All right. So this has been great. I don't think there are any other questions popping up. And I really think that this has been, I really appreciate all the questions that you all have given me. They're really thoughtful and important, and I hope you have benefited in some way from listening to the content. Hopefully I was able to answer your questions well. I do want to remind you all that there's so many great videos here, both in that library of videos of the Inside Scoop and in the lecture library. The meaning of health. I really want to thank everyone last week who participated and who continue to participate in the meaning of health thread, because we loved your answers. I did personally. I was moved by all of them. Some of the posts were so creative and have really opened even my mind up even more. And I appreciate everything you've done. So continue to post, because I'm learning a lot through this MOOC as well in so many ways. And so you all as participants in the MOOC actually have benefited me, and I wholeheartedly appreciate that. And thank you for your time, and I look forward to more questions. I do want to have announce that next week I'm going to be with Dr. June McCoy, who has an MD degree, a law degree, a JD degree, a business degree, a Master's in Business Association. And she's just a wonderful physician and friend, and I can't wait for her to show you how wonderful she is, but to field your questions. So we look forward to that, and I hope you can all participate. Thank you.